Look at Luke's face when he first takes up his father's weapon. Weaving through the air, thrumming with power, the glowing beam is mysterious and mesmerizing. He doesn't hear a word of what Obi-Wan says about Jedi and galaxies, republics and empires. That's for us, the audience. Luke's mind is drawn to a single point, the man who first wielded this weapon. He never knew him, never knew what became of him, but surely he has felt it. All his life he's dreamed of something more, some greater purpose, some greater adventure. Here it is, a whole identity contained within this single object. The story of Star Wars hinges on this moment, as so many stories throughout history have, as yours may, and mine. A sword is never just a sword. That's why we give them names. When Obi-Wan hands him that lightsaber, Luke is not just picking up his father's sword. He's picking up his father's legacy. Something, for better or worse, all young men must do.
Luke's just not a farmer, Owen. He has too much of his father in him.
We don't know much about Luke Skywalker when he first enters the screen. He emerges from the desert hut with a man we can only assume is his father, and for a moment the camera shows them side by side, but they are quickly split apart. Beru calls, and the camera follows Luke, not Owen. The first words out of her mouth identify the man as Luke's uncle. He goes off to help with the droids, sulky and disinterested, until he learns the droids are on the mission for the rebellion. At dinner, his uncle doesn't want to hear it, and they argue, clearly not for the first time, about Luke's future. We still don't know much about Luke, but the movie has made one thing very clear. This is not his true home. He's not a farmer. He's not his uncle, the man who raised him. He's a pilot, an adventurer, a hero. He's too much like his father, the man he's never known. Taken abstractly, this might seem odd. Why should he be like his father was? Why should he need to do what his father did? Why should he want to? We're long past the age of hereditary occupations, where sons were expected to learn the family trade out of necessity more than anything, where kings passed down their crowns and lords their lands and titles as surely as the blacksmith and his tools. Just because your father is an accountant doesn't mean you should be. And yet, something is calling to Luke, out there across the desert and beyond the twin stars, something to do with his father. Luke is lost. We can feel it in his expression. We can hear it in the music. We can see it in the landscape. He's not where he should be. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. His loss of purpose is symbolized by his lack of a father. No one ever accused George Lucas of being subtle, but that's the beauty of Star Wars. This is the archetype, if no longer the norm. The father, the authority figure, the one who goes out into the world to hunt or explore or build or fight to make a name for himself and for his children. Even if you need not share his profession, you do share his blood with all the strengths and weaknesses that imparts, and you do share his name with all the expectations that implies. Fair or not, the world will first know and judge you by who your father was. The name of Skywalker is a heavy burden. Obi-Wan expects much of him. Yoda eyes Luke and sees Anakin's anger. Both know that only Vader's children can hope to defeat him, and only by taking the same path and succeeding where he failed. Only by inheriting his title and his sword. The sword is an image of a man's action in the world, an instrument to effect his will, to cut the path before him, to strike down his enemies, to defend himself and his home. They have always held a special place in life and in literature. A man names his weapon in a way that he'd never name his fork. Excalibur, Durandal, Mjolnir, Anduril, Longclaw. You know these names and the men who wielded them. You know what they stood for and what their purpose was by their weapons. Arthur was not King Arthur until he pulled the sword from the stone. Anduril, the sword that cut the ring from Sauron's hand, told of both the kingship of Gondor and the failure of its last king. Aragorn knows he has inherited Isildur's responsibility, but also his weakness, so he runs from Isildur's legacy to wander in the wilderness, and Gondor, all of Middle-earth, suffers for it. Only when he takes up the reforged blade is he able to finish what Isildur started and take his rightful place in the world. But there's nothing all that magical about the blade other than being very finely made and shining in the sun. He doesn't give him superpowers or shoot lightning from its tip. Aragorn fought just as well with his old blade. The magic is in the symbol, in how Aragorn has changed. It gives him the authority to command men and ghosts, the resolve to carry on no matter the odds, the purpose to fight to the very end. He knows who he is and therefore what he must do. He is, for better or worse, his father's son, heir to a great and terrible legacy. Once Luke holds his father's lightsaber, his life changes, and not gradually. Holding what he holds, knowing what he knows, how can he go back to his old life? Despite his protestations, he can't. His father makes sure of it. Though they know nothing about each other, they still feel each other's pull. Blade in hand, Luke is drawn to the vision of his father as a noble Jedi cut down by an evil Darth Vader. But it's a lie. The weapon was not always a noble instrument. Anakin was not always a heroic figure. That means Luke, courageous and foolhardy as his father, is chasing a false vision. He's trying to become his father, not knowing what that means. After all, he shares his father's weaknesses as well as his strengths, a lesson he fails to learn inside the cave. Rushing ahead without that understanding only dooms him to repeat his father's mistakes. He must have that error forcibly severed. Only when he forges his own blade from the broken shards of his shattered vision does he have the clarity and purpose and strength to remake his family legacy. The truth is that we are not destined to become our fathers. Luke is not Anakin any more than Aragorn is Isildur. Our fathers are part of us, yes, but it is only a part. The greatest hero is not the one who dutifully carries his father's blade, but the one who reforges it into something greater. I have a father, and I am a father. This is what every good father wants, for your children to take the best of us and become something all their own. Even bad fathers, I think, though they may not be able to express it. No one wants their kids to make the same mistakes or feel the same pain or know the same struggles, even if their own problems make it impossible to prevent. You think we don't know when we are failing? I grew up wanting to become my dad, have the same kind of career and family and heart as he has, and in some ways I still want to be that man. But I learned early on in college that the career path wasn't for me. I was not my dad, nor could I ever be. The best I could do was take what my dad and my mom had given me and make the most of it. For a long time, I was worried I had disappointed him, until I had my own children, until I knew a bit more of life, the struggles as well as the successes, the doubts as well as the hopes, the failed dreams and the sleepless nights. I want my kids to learn from my mistakes without repeating them, and to inherit my strengths without requiring my weaknesses. They will have enough problems of their own. More than that, I want to give them an example to look toward and a path to follow, a tool to light their way and a weapon to guard their steps. A legacy, a sense of who they are and who they can be, where they have been and where they are going. That's all I can do. That's what my father did for me. It's what Anakin, however imperfectly, did for Luke. None of us can escape it. Whatever we are, wherever we are, we owe in part to our fathers, for better or worse. Darth Vader is the extreme, but only by degree. All of us will fail. We will stumble and fall, no doubt. The question is what legacy we will leave along the path to open the way forward. I can only hope my children will take up my blade, as I took up my father's, and carry it just a little further.